accuracy of the exercises and the harmony and wing rider and horn?
Of all of them, I would say your score would be the highest for accuracy. You messed up once or twice. In movement number 9, which is, see, I don't even know this. In movement number 9, that's where you make a circle in the trot, half circle from
Right.
B to E, and it says 6 to 8 walk steps near the center line. You started too soon.
Oh, okay.
If it's near the center line, and let's say you're aiming for 6 steps, you want 4 on one side of X and 4 on the other
Okay.
side of X to be perfect. So that's one of those many things that you almost have to walk for yourself
Right.
and think about. Now, where exactly is 4 strides from the center line is different with every horse.
And it's different with every ring too.
No, because the ring is always exactly the same width. The ring is always 20 meters wide. So to X is always 10 meters. And when you're on a bending line on a circle, it's a little bit more than 10 meters. But it's never different in the ring.
Right.
And if you don't have a dressage ring, which we mostly don't have at home, you just get 2 cones or 2 jump standards or 2 whatever you have on hand and pace it out 20 meters. Like in hardware stores, they have tapes now that have inches on one side and,
Right.
and meters on the other side. And it's very useful because you can just measure 20 meters in a straight line.
Right.
And then say to yourself, well, if I'm making this half circle and I have to go from one cone to the next cone, and exactly in the middle of that, which is 10 meters, and you can put another marker there, I'm supposed to have walked for 4 strides. The only way to find out where to go is to estimate, to practice it with your
Right.
horse, how many strides. And that's really important in this test, because it's one of only 5 scores. But you were very accurate. So overall, that part was good.
Right.
I wouldn't spend any time with Katie worrying about how to ride accurately. You know how to go into your corners. You know what the 20-meter circle is supposed to be. You got from point to point, so that's good. Rider position, that's very important. And it says, under rider position, just so we know what we're talking about.
It's the second.
No, I went
Somewhere
back.
on it.
It's the same one as what you had.
Oh, well, what happened to mine?
It's on,
I had one that has everything.
is it
Ah,
that?
There it is.
There you go.
Rider position. Rider's ear, shoulder, hip, and heel are aligned vertically when sitting at all gaits. Well, they're not. Because if I look at you right now, when you're just sitting comfortably normally, your ear and your shoulder are aligned. Your knee is in front. Your ear, your shoulder, your hip are aligned, and your heel is almost aligned. I think if I were working with you in the exercises, I would make you drop your stirrups and do the swinging your leg
Right.
back one at a time and then dropping the weight to get used to that position, and then you'll find out that you probably need to lengthen your stirrups.
Okay.
Because it's almost there, it's almost there. So you're aligned vertically when sitting at all gaits. Well, almost, but not quite. Your trunk should be slightly in front of the vertical in a rising trot. But if that could use some attention too, because sometimes what you tend to do in the rising trot is to lean back a little and pull yourself up from the back. Now, what Marilyn was talking about is using your abs. And I have this big heavy coat, so I can't show you, but you almost push yourself
Right.
forward with your midsection. So that needs a little adjustment. When seeing from in front or behind, the rider is straight and symmetrical with even shoulders, hips, and stirrups. That's pretty good, but you tend to lean a little bit to your right, especially on your first center line. There's a little more weight in the right stirrup, and that's
not really helpful because one, you're not centered, your weight's not in the center of gravity of the horse. And two, it's hard, if anything, you should have more weight of your inside leg, which would be your left leg, because you're gonna turn in this
Right.
direction. So we need to get you a little more straight, but not, it's not by any means terrible. The rider sits in harmony with the mechanics of each gait, yes, that was good. The hands maintain a steady elastic contact with the horse's mouth. I'd say that's our overall issue here,
Yes.
is that the horse isn't interested in accepting the contact. And you're kind of going back and forth between trying and not trying. So sometimes your reins are loose, which the reins should not be loose ever. You should never be pulling, and you're not, so that's good. But there should always be an elastic connection. And that's probably
Our biggest issue.
the biggest
Yeah,
shortcoming.
that's,
And the horse's response, the horse's training appears to be following the principles established by the pyramid of training. Well, the bottom plank there, which applies to training level horses, is rhythm and relaxation. The horse could be more relaxed. It's
Yeah.
the unwillingness to take the contact is a sign of tension.
right.
And I don't think it's being so much produced by your riding, because I don't see you doing anything that upsets the horse.
Right.
But maybe you are a little too passive in riding the horse forward, because it's, under horse's response and performance, it says ideally, the horse moves actively forward with a consistent tempo in each gait and reaches confidently to the bit. So
Right,
that
that's what we're lacking at.
probably involves more seat and leg from you and a better understanding of how to maintain the connection, but always by riding from behind,
Right.
riding hind end forward into an elastic connection. And the horse was showing me in the trot stretchy circle that he understands, he's willing to try to reach down.
Right.
He just doesn't know how to sustain it. He probably needs a little help more from you and your aides. I don't think he's like, I'm never going to do this, I hate this, I'm going to be hollow forever.
No.
He's just like, okay, I'll stretch, but wait a minute, I don't know what to do now. And that's because you're not there for him in that moment,
Okay.
I think. I mean, all
Yeah,
of
no,
this
that
is-
would be my impression too. It's, there are things that are missing in my training.
Yeah, yeah.
That, you know, I'm like, okay, we got to this point, now what?
Right,
We're never going anywhere if we don't get this problem solved.
right, right. Because if you went, let's say, to a big recognized show and you did training level test 1, and he did it like this, you wouldn't get very good scores.
Right.
You wouldn't get as good a score as you're going to get today. Because there are other things that we're considering here. But the transitions were smooth and willing, for example, pretty much. Yes, smooth transitions, but not forward into the contact and inconsistent stretch.
Right.
If for harmony, what's really lacking to create more harmony is that forward flow. So it all tends to come back to the same kind
Right.
of thing.
So I need to be
You
more
need-
active.
If your position were a little bit different, you'd be able to push more from behind, and then you'd get the forward flow, and you'd be in a position to learn how to follow and develop the
Right.
elastic contact. So just like in that clinic that Katie and I went to, where we spent a whole day doing this with different riders, it was interesting to discover that most of the time there was one overall thing that was
really
affecting everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
And
exactly where
If
I'm
you
at.
can figure out that overall thing and then train working on that, which of course you can't train the horse in a test, and the judges and the trainer. This is
Right.
the first time we've ever been allowed to talk about what the riders do.
I know, I think this is great.
I
you know,
do too, I
because-
love it, I just love it, I think it's wonderful, and I'm hoping more people will do it. But I think riders, a lot of riders are scared of it, because they think they're going to get nailed. And the fact is, that when you focus this way, the scores are better than you would expect them to.
Right, yeah, because I thought, I know that I'm out of balance, and I've been working on that. I was telling Katie.
Well, you're not dreadfully out of it.
Well, that's good to know though, because I don't always have a grounds person. And we
Right.
just started doing centered riding lessons, so I'm working on that.
Right.
And pushing from
Right.
behind and everything, so.
Right. I think overall, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say if this rider had a better alignment,
Mm-hmm.
she would be able to ride the horse more forward
Right.
from behind. And over time, the horse would be more willing to stretch and show more harmony and more activity.
Mm-hmm.
And the test would flow, it would look
Right.
fluid, so you sit there and say, oh, that's so nice.
Right, because I know there are moments I'm like, go, contact.
Well, the other thing to remember, just as a handy way of thinking about it, when you look at your scores, not just in this test, but any test, if the score is 5 or 5 point something, that really means it must be better.
Right.
If it's 6 or 6 point something, it means it should be better.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 7 or 7 point something, it could be better.
Right.
And if it's 8, well, then it's good. That doesn't mean it can't be very good or excellent.
Right.
But if you think about the must be better, should be better,
Mhm.
could be better concept, that's what the judges are thinking when they use those numbers.
Right. Yeah, and we tend to get a lot of 6s. Occasional
So,
7s.
so a 6 is satisfactory.
Right, but
You
we're
did
not.
it, you did it okay, there was nothing terrible, it
Right.
wasn't wonderful. It didn't, if it were a freestyle, it didn't make me want to get up and start dancing with you at the horse. It didn't even make me
Okay.
just sit there and smile.
Right.
It made me say, well, that's nice, but,
Mm-hmm.
so I find a lot of times that riders really don't understand that judges have very specific vocabulary in mind when they give you a score. Like a 6 is this, it's
Right.
not this other thing.
I know it's
And a 10 is not perfect, by the way. A 10 is only excellent. So many judges are too reluctant to give 9s and 10s because they have the same idea that riders do, that, oh my God, it has to be fantastic.
Right.
Well, not really. A 9 is very good.
Mm-hmm.
And you had your 9 moments today.
Yeah, we just need to squish them all together.
Yeah. But I think
Yeah.
you can address
Yeah.
the primary problem.
Yeah.
And then, then you see if you want to go and work with your own trainer along those
Well,
lines.
that's part of the issue. I was telling Kate, where I board, you have Western pleasure horses. So it's totally different.